A lot of people don't understand why dying early on defense is worse than dying late in the round, or why a 2-on-2 can be an incredible advantage for attackers, while a 5-on-5 could go either way, or how to take a site without aim dueling every defender. There's nothing wrong with not knowing these things, it's just that you don't know what you don't know. That changes today. The subject is map control, and the goal is for you to not only understand it, but to make certain applications to your game to improve as a player. This will be the foundation of understanding that will allow you to learn more advanced concepts. I'll probably edit them all into one video at some point, but less will sink in, so I recommend you watch it in more digestible pieces. Hello everyone, I'm Achax, and today we're going to go over map control. Let's start with map control at the individual level. You have a character, and you can see a certain amount of the map on your screen. Here's the part most people forget. You also control all of the area that the other team can't get to without going through your area. This is your individual map control, the sum of what you're looking at and where the other team can't be because of the spot you were looking at. You can see if I'm holding this, it's going to be very difficult for the opponents to get to A lamps. At the very least, I'll notice them. Now that's not a terribly advantageous position, so most people will play somewhere more like here, which is much less exposed. Since there are a bunch of players on a defending team, everyone will hold an angle like this. The sum of the area all of the team can see and prevent attackers from reaching by seeing these areas is your collective map control, and this is shared across the team. There are a set number of lanes on the map to get to the sites or the defender's spawn. As such, attackers must use at least one of these lanes to get to the site and plant, or they will run out of time and lose. If defenders have map control of all of the lanes to get to the site for the entire round, they will win. That is why a 2-on-2 is an advantage for attackers. Defending teams will have to either hold the sites themselves or leave openings in the defense of the sites. Either way, that's much easier for attackers to take a site. Defenders typically want to make attackers waste time taking the parts of the map leading up to site, but most players make the mistake of overcommitting to these extended positions. Not only should you not overcommit to them, but you should actually give them up as the round progresses. That's more complicated and for a different video. Holding extended positions on defense gives you a variety of advantages and options, which I regret to say is also for another video. For now, just understand that controlling these positions is a good thing for a certain amount of time. As impenetrable as a site may look, defenders actually need a good portion of their team to hold all of the extended areas. That's part of why an early death can be so devastating to a defending team, as they have to fall back far too early and compensate for that lost player. The defender's strength comes from their ability to be there first, quick rotations, and the fact that the attackers have to waste time clearing everything up until site. Imagine if the defenders couldn't move beyond the sites, but the time limit was still the same. The game would be hilariously attacker-sided. Let's take a pause for a moment and list the practical takeaways that you can easily apply to your game that we've learned so far. On attack, you want to take down as many defenders as possible as early as you can, preferably. This will force gaps in the defense. You don't have to push a site where you got the pick. Scoring a pick and then falling back and regrouping will rob defenders of any information and leave them unsure how to split players to defend sites. This strategy of attacking and then regrouping is used far too uncommonly. A very strong attack strategy is to split up. For example, 3 players B long and 2 players the other B way. This will occupy both defenders so that they cannot support each other while still rendering them both outnumbered. On defense, you want to stay alive as long as possible. Try to hold positions you can fall back to site from. If you are under a lot of pressure or are really outnumbered, it's better to give up an area early than lose your character. Try to obtain as much map control for as long as you can without dying, but also know when to fall back or rotate. Use cameras and intel operators to get more map control and have more lines of sight. Cypher is my favorite for this. Applying all of these will allow you to take more sites and delay the attackers as long as possible, while giving you the best chance to retake or prevent attackers from planting at all. Let's go over a few common mistakes that most players make so that you cannot be one of them. As we've discussed, it doesn't make sense for players to control positions they don't have to. The question is, what makes an area essential to control? The answer is the spike. The attackers need the spike and the site to plant and gain the advantage that offers. If they don't have either, then they won't be able to win. If you have the spike down and you can keep it, play it over the sites. It doesn't matter if attackers have both sites if you have the spike. When attackers commit to one side, let's say B, then holding A no longer matters. It can be difficult to tell what commitment looks like, but I'll give you a few easy ones. When the attackers no longer have time to swap sites, that is going to be commitment. When the bulk of the attack, usually 3 or more, are on one side of the map, that's usually the site that they hit. When attackers initiate and execute, which is a lot of utility use on one site, that's usually the site they'll commit to. On defense, when you think attackers will commit to one site, you should move to that site, which is called rotating, and leave one or maybe no players on the other one. This will counter the extreme numbers advantage that attackers usually have. As an attacker, make sure you aren't too far away from the spike, or at least know where it is so you can act accordingly. Make sure you don't take areas that don't matter unless it's part of some overall strategy. Faking one site to draw rotations so you can hit another site is a valuable strategy. Let's take a quick break and go over the applications again. Number 1, play the spike. Give up areas of the map that are too far away from the spike to matter. Rotate early, such that you can maintain control of both sites, but also stack one to counter the attacker's number advantage. You can especially do this with Cypher and his camera and tripwires. As an attacker, only take relevant areas of the map because these are the only ones with value, unless it's part of an overall strategy. And 3, look out for an area attackers commit to taking, so that you can rotate on time. The last thing we have for today is utility usage. Smokes can block the opponent's line of sight, which as we discussed before is important to map control. Try to think of ways you can use smokes to take parts of the map that would otherwise be difficult. Flashes will force defenders to either fall back or die. Either result is a definite boost to your chances of winning. Grenades and mollies will prevent defenders from holding corners or certain angles, and maybe end up getting an early kill. We can talk about variation and consistency with grenades another time. They also give you map control in certain situations where the enemy would have died had they been where the nade went. Something else that you have to understand is that taking a part of the map, such as this part, A lamps, will put this defender at a severe disadvantage because he has to look in too many spots at once. If you take A lamps, you can either force the defender off, or you likely get a free frag and map control. Once again, either result is good. As a defender here, you'll want to fall back from unsafe positions, preferably covering yourself with utility. To combine all this, you can use smokes to block this area right here and take A lamps. This will help take control of this whole area right here. Or you can split the site with smokes, plant, and fall back. I do this all the time with Jet or Brimstone. Alright, the takeaways here. Use utility to rob defenders of line of sight, which will take map control. Number 2, breaking through behind defenders will make any positions they hold easy to clear. You can use utility to get behind them. Also, use utility to make defenders fall back, block their line of sight, or force them out of position. As a defender, use utility to fall back safely, or block off attackers' line of sight to hold map control, despite the attacker's superior numbers. I would especially recommend doing this after attackers get a pick or to delay for rotates. This is partly why I think Brimstone is such a strong operator. I'm going to give you my top 3 takeaways that you can apply for the most benefit. Utility usage is number 1. You don't need to take site directly. Taking areas of the map that make holding site a bad idea is something you should work into your gameplay. Number 2 is not consistently dying early on defense. As a general rule, dying early on defense is a bad plan, and getting a 1-for-1 trade on defense is a disadvantage. Number 3 is going to be playing the spike. Taking an area you don't need or leaving the spike in spawn is a great way to lose the round, and those add up over time. Focus on adding these in first. They're going to give you the most benefit, and 2 of them are pretty easy to learn. Alright everyone, that's all for the basics. I hope you got some value out of this video. It's much quicker to learn it like this than to puzzle it out yourself. I think gamers as a whole are too focused on raw point-and-click aim and miss easy opportunities to improve, such as this. I think it will give you an edge on the competition. My parting words are to make sure to consciously practice this stuff. Eventually it'll absorb into your game sense and become second nature, but it can be difficult to remember to do it if you're set in a rhythm. I hope you have a great day, best of luck everyone, and I'll catch you next time.